The next restaurant I'm going to review is called Butcher House, and it's in Costa Mesa, and it's a French-inspired restaurant. I'm guessing the owners are French. The chef is definitely French. That's what makes it interesting. I found this place online. I found it on Google. I was just looking for restaurants. I like the name a lot, and I like the menu, so I went to go check it out. This is at the Costa Mesa Anti-Mall. Started off with the burrata. The burrata hat came with sauteed peaches and pistachio, and then it came with bread on the side. You could tell the burrata was fresh. You could tell the burrata was imported from Italy. You could tell it was high quality. But more importantly, the way it was put together was really good. It just had, like I said, the peaches, the pistachio. It had a honey sauce on top, and then it had the bread with it. And it went together really well. We also started off with a French onion soup. Now, this is where I got really disappointed because I was in a French restaurant, so I was excited. Usually French restaurants have the best French onion soup. And I'm a huge French onion soup fan. Huge French onion soup connoisseur. Anywhere I go and it has French onion soup on the menu, I will order it. And it's kind of hard to get wrong. It's usually like decent. Very rarely is it bad. This was just okay. It didn't have a lot of onions, which is kind of disappointing since it was a French onion soup. So it was lackluster at best. I don't recommend it. Just pass on it. At least that day when I went, it was not good. But again, it's all about consistency and culture. So if you can't get that down, this is the kind of stuff that happens. Someone tries something, the kitchen has an off day, and then all of a sudden you have someone that thinks that you have bad French onion soup for the rest of their lives. And they're going to tell everybody that they know that you have bad French onion soup, just like I did. So for entrees, I got the duck confit. I love duck. I absolutely love duck. I get it again wherever I go. If there's duck on the menu, I'm going to try it. Because it's not on the menu a lot. It's kind of rare. And so it's always interesting to see what people do with it. And usually a restaurant puts duck on the menu, they're pretty confident. You have to know what you're doing with duck. It's not just the easiest thing. It's not just like a chicken where you can just cook it, put a nice sauce on it, some good sides, and you have a dish. It takes some tenacity and some technicality to get the duck right. And so the way they served it was duck confit, which means they basically cook it in its own fat, render it in its own fat, they cook it for a long period of time. And this duck did not disappoint. It was delicious. It was tender. It literally like pulled apart without any effort, and it was falling off the bone. So the duck itself was really good. They put a little demi-glaze. I don't remember the exact name of it or what type of glaze it was, but it looked like a demi-glaze. It kind of tasted like one, but it went really well with the duck. And then they had a bean casserole. That's what they called it, a bean casserole, which is basically a side of beans. And honestly, I'm not a bean fan. I don't like beans. I don't like refried beans. I don't like barbecue beans. I'm just not a big bean fan. But these were actually really good. These were like elevated beans. These are like expensive beans. I know it sounds funny to say, but there are very cheap beans like you find in Mexican restaurants. And then there's these type of beans, which are expensive. They're hard to find. They have a lot of flavor. They're rare. And again, this is kind of something that you have to cook right, put in the right sauce, and make it the right way. And they did it. It was perfect. My fiance got a burger, and it was one of the best burgers. I mean, I live in California. There's a lot of good burgers. There's a lot of good restaurants, a lot of good burgers. So it is saying something. It was a really good burger. The bread was good. The meat was, you could tell the patty was made in house. Like they actually grinded the meat there. There's 3 types of different cuts of meat, and they put it together there. They formed it there, cooked it there, you can tell. And it came with a side of fries. The fries were made in-house as well. Obviously, it's a big difference. When fries are made in-house, it's a huge difference. Like you could just taste it, and you can get really creative with it. They did the fries justice. The fries were made in-house, and they were delicious. And they came with a side of aioli, which I like because it's a French restaurant, a French-inspired restaurant. So it should come with aioli because that's what they use in France. They dip starches in basically mayonnaise or aioli. And so they came out with an aioli. I think it was a garlic aioli, and it was good. We still asked for a side of ketchup. I obviously prefer ketchup, but it's just cool to have that immersiveness. That's what I'm talking about, culture. Like, why wouldn't your fries come with aioli? Let the guests have the experience, and if they want the ketchup, let them ask, and then bring them the ketchup. It's pretty simple. But that was it was an amazing burger. So then for desserts, we had a chocolate souffle, which is you don't see that on the menu very often. Obviously a popular enough dish. You know what it is. I know what it is. But you don't see it on menus too often. And you definitely don't see it executed right. It's usually a chocolate souffle ends up being some sort of like chocolate pudding or chocolate cake that's super sweet, super sugary. This was just a traditional chocolate souffle made in-house from scratch. You could tell it wasn't too sweet, and it had really high notes of the chocolate, the cacao, because they made it in-house. They didn't just use like a chocolate syrup or chocolate packaging. They used cacao with sweetener and made the chocolate themselves. and it was really good. A chocolate souffle is kind of a weird thing. It's a weird texture. It's very soft. It's light. They did have cacao on top of it, these cacao crunches on top of it, so it gave it a crunch, but it was super light, but it was good because it's nice having a dessert that's just not packed full of sugar just to make it acceptable for the guests. It actually had some finesse to it. It was an actual recipe that was good, and it was made in-house the right way, and it tasted good. It was a great dessert. It's always good when you don't feel like you're having a sugar rush after a dessert at a restaurant. That's usually when the dessert's made right, which is in-house from scratch with a good recipe. And then we also had the creme brulee. And the creme brulee, again, it's a weird texture. It's kind of like a weird thing. It's not on a lot of menus, even though it's a popular enough dessert to where everyone knows what it is, but you don't see it a lot on menus. And that's because it's hard to execute. This place does it right. I mean, it was perfect. When you broke into the candy shell on the top, the custard would just like come like rising to the top. And that's when you know it's done right. And it was good. It was really good. I'm not a big creme brulee fan. I wouldn't necessarily like order it. It wouldn't be the first thing I'd want to order, but I did want to try it here because it is a French dessert. I wanted to see if they would be on point with it, and they were on point with it. So honestly, for the most part, the food's on point. So next is like the service, right? I always talk about, you can have good food, you can have great food, you have the best food, but if you have bad service, people are most likely not going to come back. If you have good service or great service or the best service, but you have okay food, people are usually going to come back. Bad service, getting burnt by someone, having a bad experience, that's pretty much everybody's the same. They're in the same boat when it comes to that. Bad food, bad experience, bad service, whatever it is, people are usually on the same boat when they don't want to experience it again, and they'll avoid it at all costs. And a lot of times people won't say what happened, so they can't get rectified, so they just get burnt, they get mad, and then they just walk away and say, I'm just never going back there again. And then they have this resentment towards this restaurant. Anytime someone brings it up, they're going to badmouth it the first chance they get, because that's the way they're voicing their opinion. This place does have good food, and the service is good. The service was serviceable. It was good. Our server was knowledgeable. He was attentive. He was friendly. He checked all the boxes. It wasn't memorable service, and I know that sounds like I'm being super harsh, but I mean, like, this is where it's going. This is what it is. It's restaurants are based off of hospitality. The reason why you pay extra to go sit at a restaurant and get served, because they want to be served. They want hospitality, and part of the art of hospitality is making it an experience and not just checking off boxes. You can have service, and you can tell someone, okay, here's a service. You're going to greet them within X amount of minutes. You're going to get their order within X amount of minutes, bring their drinks within X amount of minutes, make sure their food gets delivered within X amount of minutes, check on them, drop the check, make sure the drinks are refilled, make sure the plates are bussed in time, make sure they get the dessert menu in time, make sure they get the check in time, tell them thank you, all that stuff. Those are just checklists. And you can give anybody that, which means you can give a robot that, which in this day and age doesn't sound that crazy, but it's true. You could just give anybody that, and it's a basic thing. It's not special. And everyone's experienced it. So it's really not special. It's kind of what you expect. It's kind of what you expect when you go up to a counter at a department store, right? You expect the person to say hi to you, expect the person to ask you how your day was, did you find everything okay, ring you up, ask you, give you the total, run your payment, say thank you very much. You expect that. It's exactly what you expect, and usually you get that, right? And so that's what happens at restaurants, is you give them that, I expect that service. You just give, just here's a check these boxes and it'll be great. That's not great. You're in hospitality. Use it. It's an art. So treat it like an art. How do you give service that will make the person want to talk about it the next day, to make the person want to tell their friends about it? How do you give them an experience that makes them want to leave a good review? How do you give them an experience that makes them want to come back? Those are the three goals. How do you give someone an experience through hospitality that makes them want to share about it online, social media? That's the goal. That's what you should be striving for all the time. That's what we should be racking our brain for, getting creative with. How do we do those? What are the little steps we can do? Here are the 10 steps, right? Yeah, like greet them at this time, food at this time, refills, check back, drop check. All that stuff is, yeah, okay, that's nice. But now what do we put in between there to add, to make this different than any other restaurant they go to? What are those little things that we put in between there? How do we make it different? How do we make a difference? And those are the things you should be striving for. And if you're a restaurant and you're struggling to figure that out, message me. I have a lot of ideas on that. I can help you out. But for this restaurant, for the Butcher House, it was, like I said, it was serviceable. He checked all the boxes. He clearly knows what he's doing. He was a good server. As far as that, he knows how to check all the boxes. He checked all the boxes, checked back on us. Food came out on time. Food came out right, drinks came out on time, drinks came out right, we got greeted on time, weren't waiting on anything, dropped the check, all that good stuff. So yeah, there's a couple of hiccups, and it wasn't necessarily service, but it was culture. And that's a big thing to me too, is culture. Culture should be in front of mind when you're going to a restaurant, and you should pay attention to it too as a guest, because you're spending your money to be there, and it's your hard-earned money, and you're spending it, and your time, and your trust. And the least they can do is have good culture. And what I mean by that culture is it's their mission statement, right? Like, I want to give the customer the best experience possible, and I'm going to do anything it takes to do that. That's part of it. So when you go to a restaurant, they really shouldn't say no to you for anything. Obviously, there's things they have to say no to, and there's reasonable things they can say no to. But as far as basic stuff that's doable, it should be done. And I'll give you an example. So we asked for a mocktail. Can you take this drink? It's like a margarita. I'm pretty sure it's just a basic margarita. Can you just make me a mocktail version of it? Just basically lime juice, water, agave, so I can take a picture. And he's like, no, we can't do that. We don't make mocktails. And that's fine. It's like a big deal. No. Like, would I not go back to a restaurant because of that? Absolutely not. But that was just a little bit of like a chink in the armor. All of a sudden you're like, okay, you just told me no once. So that's kind of like resistance, negativity. But okay, that's fine. That's whatever. I don't care. That's not a big deal. But then my fiance asked for a straw with her water, and he said that they're all out of straws. They didn't have any straws. Now that to me is baffling. That's bad culture, because that's a very easy problem to solve, both in logistics and thought process. It's, if you're out of straws before the shift, if you're short on straws, someone needs to go to the grocery store and buy straws. It's call the hostess up before she comes in. Hey, can you stop and get straws? We'll pay for your, we'll give you an extra half hour on the clock, and we'll obviously pay you back for the straws. Or the manager just goes and gets the straws. Or you run out during the shift, the manager goes out and gets the straws. You go next door. There's restaurants. You can see them. They're walking distance. 10 seconds away. There's restaurants next door, restaurants on the right, restaurants on the left. There's restaurants straight ahead. Go to the restaurant. Hey, can we borrow a box of straws, or we'll place them when we get our shipment of straws? There's just so many easy ways to fix this problem. So to be out of straws it just blows my mind. I don't think I've ever been to a restaurant where they just said, we're out of straws. Sorry. It's a lack of care. And that kind of stuff makes me worry, because when there's lack of care in front of the house, what kind of lack of care is there in the back of the house? What shortcuts are they making? Like, how long are they holding on to food? Are they using MSG? When you see the lack of pride in the front of the house, what are they doing in the back of the house? So that worried me. But then there's another thing that worries me. And this baffles me, because I've seen this so many times, and that's paper menus being dirty and wrinkled. I don't understand it. Paper menus, especially with COVID, they started giving out new paper menus more and more and more. And paper menus, they get printed in the back. You don't have to order it from some shipping company. You print them in the back. And for me to come in on a Friday night and get a dirty menu, and it was crumpled up. It wasn't crumpled up, but it was all wrinkled and it was dirty. It had food on it. It had food stains on it, and that's like unacceptable. Like, why would you give a guest a menu with food stains on it to start off their meal? That's the first thing they see. That's the first impression they get of your restaurant, is when they sit down, is a dirty menu. And I don't understand it. And on top of that, this is not a cheap restaurant. Their average entree was $30 to $50. They had $80 entrees. Their cheapest entree, I think, was $30. So it's like, when you're paying that price point, no matter what, you shouldn't get a dirty menu. But when you're in a high-end restaurant, you should be getting a clean menu, a brand new menu. There shouldn't even be there should be a crease on the corner of it. If there's a crease, you throw it away. You give the guests a new menu. And that means a host let a dirty menu hit the table. The server let a dirty menu hit the table, and the manager let a dirty menu hit the table. That's all three. Either they don't care, or they're just oblivious. But either way, it's bad, because again, what other corners are being cut? If that can't get done, then what else isn't getting done? Because that's such a basic thing. That should be top of the mind. Like, that's such a fail, and I don't understand it. So listen, if you're in a restaurant, that should be a number one priority. That should be talked about at a shift meeting, every meeting. You should be telling your host, your bartenders, your managers, everyone, if you see a dirty menu, throw it away. Do not let a dirty menu hit the table. Don't let a creased menu hit the table. Make sure the menu looks brand new. It should be shining. That's the first thing they see. They're literally reading your product and deciding what to buy, what to spend money on, and judging your restaurant right there subconsciously, and you're failing right out the gate. You're just falling on your face right out the gate because of why? What, you're saving a penny, you're saving a nickel, dime, or you didn't print enough menus. Go print more menus. So as far as atmosphere and vibe, the vibe was good. I mean, everyone was friendly. It was pretty dead, so it was mellow. Not decorated in a memorable way. I mean, the decorations are fine. It's nice inside. You can put it that way. Just, it's nice. I didn't think anything was dirty or ugly. It was nice, but it wasn't memorable. And so when it's not memorable, you're kind of like, yeah. I mean, it's not immersive. It doesn't take it to that next level. So for food, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. The food's good. It's good. I mean, it worries me a little bit. They cut quarters so much in the front of the house. I don't know what's going on in the back of the house, but the food was good. Outside of the French onion soup, everything was really good. So 4 out of 5 for the food. For service and culture, I give it 2 out of 5 stars. I'm going to give it 2 stars for the service. The service was good. Again, it wasn't elevated. It wasn't great. And the culture was non-existent, in my opinion. I mean, it failed. That's it. Like that, I could see it, like clear as day. There was no hiding it. It was my first experience there, first time there, and there was 3 incidents where I'm like, oh, there's something off here. So that's not good. I mean, to get someone into your restaurant, spending money and trying your food as an owner, it has to be frustrating to think that like these little things are what's going to cause them to not want to come back. The stuff that's completely controllable, so easy, like that, fully in your control. So total, I'm giving it a 9 out of 15. Would I go back? I mean, if you really want to try some French food, or you're in the mood for like a steak at a random spot, you want to try something new, I mean, sure, yeah. If you already just want to get some good food, like, yeah, go there, try it out. If you're not like, hey, I don't care about I don't care about the culture or the vibe, I just want to go and get a plate of good food in front of me, then definitely. It's easy parking. It was easy to get a table, so it could be an easy night out. Don't fight any crowds, deal with parking, valet, all that stuff, none of that. If you're trying to go somewhere to get like a really good experience, a date or anything like that, or anniversary, then no, definitely not. I would go somewhere else. There's definitely better options out there, just from the experience that I had. So yeah, that's all I got.